If you ever made homemade pizza before and it didn't turn out right, here's a recipe that you can use that can go from your bowl to the oven in 45 minutes. Yes, you heard that right, in 45 minutes. Not only will this pizza dough be great, tasty, and flavorful, it'll be better than anything you can get at Domino's, Papa John's, or Pizza Hut. The difficulty level on this particular pizza dough recipe is like a 4 out of 10. This is super easy for you guys to make. Now, I'm going to be balling out with some of the tools that I have here, but all of these are optional. Number one is a scale for me to measure my ingredients in. I do use the metric system instead of the volume, which is cups and teaspoons, but I will leave that information in the description below as far as it goes to the recipe. I'm also going to be using my pizza peel and a piece of stone to cook my pizza in. So let's get started making the pizza dough. So the first thing you're going to need is some beer. Beer is nothing but wet bread, and it's going to have all of the flavor that would come from like a long fermented pizza dough. We don't have that amount of time. We only have 45 minutes, so we're going to warm that up to its blood temperature, which means you can put your finger in there and you can't feel anything. That means it's ready to add in your yeast. So I'm adding in a whole lot of yeast because the yeast is going to help our dough rise, and the reason why I'm adding a lot of it is because we don't have a lot of time. So next we're going in with some sugar, and I'm just pouring it in there. You can see it's already reacting, so it tells me that the yeast is alive. But if you guys want to just be sure, make sure you see bubbles before you continue. And so when you see bubbles, all you have to do is add in some white vinegar. White vinegar is another flavor enhancer that we're going to use to kind of negate having to put this in the refrigerator and like long ferment it and add texture and complexity and flavor to the dough, when we can just add a little bit of vinegar. I'm going in with some olive oil, some honey as well. The honey is going to help it brown, and the olive oil is to help the crust kind of be a soft texture, but still have like a nice crust. So we're going to mix that together till it's well combined, and at this point all we have to do is add in our flour. Now the flour that I'm going to be using is white lily bread flour. I'm going to add a lot of bread flour in here. We're not using all-purpose flour because all-purpose flour doesn't have the high protein content in order to make our dough kind of, you know, develop gluten and actually kind of rise. This is a quick bread, so we're adding in, you know, a good amount of bread flour to stand in for that all-purpose flour and make sure that our dough kind of rise higher in the oven. Now, but if you do want to use all-purpose flour, I suggest you cut down the liquid, but just know that your dough might not rise that much in the oven. So after I add in the flour, I'm just making sure everything is well combined using a spoon. And right now I'm just trying to make a shaggy dough. I'm not trying to, you know, fully combine this dough because we're going to do some things at the end that's going to actually build gluten and actually make this thing rise in the amount of time that we need it to rise to. So next we're going to add in some salt, and I'm just pouring the salt on top of there. And this is called auto-leasing. This is going to help the dough stretch. Basically just going to help it stretch. I'm not going to go through all the dough terms in this video because I know a lot of you guys are beginners. So when I add that salt, I'm going to spray it with some water, and this is to help it dissolve. And I'm also going to spray my hands, with some water as well. And I'm just going to combine the dough, and I'm making sure everything is well combined and no like big chunks of flour are sticking out, and there's no like, you can feel the grittiness of the flour on your hand. You just want to make sure you know kind of use your hands until you feel it becomes sticky. So there are a couple of determining factors as far as how long it takes you to, you know, for your dough to come together. So with me, I'm in a very hot and humid area, so you know my dough is a little bit sticky, but your dough might not be that sticky. So I'm just like combining it with my hands, and like I said, I'm just trying to make sure it's well combined. Now it's getting to the point where it's super sticky and I want to remove my hand now because it's getting a little bit uncomfortable. So I'm just taking a, you know, kind of plastic spatula and just kind of folding it till it becomes a resemblance of a dough. Like I said, this is not trying to make it perfect, just kind of, you know, kind of putting it together. So I'm going to cover this with some plastic wrap, and we're going to let this ferment for about 10 minutes. So now we're at 15 minutes, and I'm going to let the dough rise for an additional 10 minutes. So I just covered it with plastic wrap, and after 10 minutes I just took it out, and then all I'm doing is taking the dough and folding it over itself. So I'm stretching till I meet resistance, and then I'm folding it over itself, and I'm going to do that about 4 to 5 times. This is just building a gluten structure. You can see the dough is a lot more combined and it's not as shaggy as it was when we first started out this process. So it is still a little bit quite sticky, so I'm just kind of slapping it to make sure that my hands can get free. But if it's getting to a point for you where it's extra sticky, you can definitely add a little bit of olive oil to your hand just to make sure that, you know, that it doesn't stick to you. So after about, you know, 5 minutes doing that, I'm going to let that rise again, and I'm going to make my tomato sauce that's going to go on my pizza. Now normally I would already have my sauce and my cheese already, you know, shredded up and ready to go, but I'm trying to be realistic with you guys as far as making this piece of dough and doing this whole process in 45 minutes. So while that is rising, I'm adding in my seasonings. Everything will be listed in the description below by grams and teaspoons, so whatever you're using, you can be able to do it. I'm going to add in some olive oil, and then I'm going to add in some water. Now this sauce is just going to be a quick little sauce that you guys can make using tomato paste. I didn't want to go over like no super kind of advanced type of sauce to put on this pizza, and we're trying to make this thing in 45 minutes. So I'm adding in some water, then I'm going to go in with some tomato paste. Now this tomato paste already has Italian herbs in there, so I didn't have to add any basil or oregano, and I highly suggest that you get the tomato paste already with the Italian herbs in there, so you don't have to get basil and oregano. So I just mixed it in with my immersion blender, but you can put this in any type of blender, any type of food processor to make it up real quickly. So once my sauce is done, I'm going to add it to the refrigerator to kind of thicken up, and now I'm going to shred my cheese. Now I'm using whole fat mozzarella cheese, but usually if I had more time, I would kind of add in some, you know, Parmesan or Asiago cheese, but I didn't have that much time. As you can see, it was 15 minutes later and my dough had risen another kind of 25 to 50%, and as you can see, the dough is well, you know, kind of well put together now. So I'm stretching it and folding it over itself again, but you can see it kind of looks like a dough now. So now I'm going to add a lot more slap and folds than I did the previous time, because this is going to be the last time that we build gluten before we put this thing in the oven. So you just see me doing some extra slap and folds before I cover it again and let it rise for an additional 10 minutes. So at this point we are already 35 minutes in, and I can kind of feel my stomach growling, and I'm ready to gnaw on some pizza. So I covered it up and let it rise an additional 10 minutes, and now we're ready to bake our pizza. This is 45 minutes in, and I'm taking some flour and some cornmeal and laying it down on my pizza peel. And once my pizza peel is completely covered, I'm going to take my dough and I'm going to slap it on top of there. I'm going to add a little bit of more flour and cornmeal because it is quite a bit sticky. Like I said, I'm in a high humidity, high heat area, so it, you know, it's going to be a little more sticky than it might be if you guys are up north. So what I'm doing is adding some more of that cornmeal and flour, and I'm going to kind of make a crust and I'm going to stretch it out. Now I'm keeping my hands away from the middle part and I'm going around it and stretching it. Now I tried to stretch it with my hands, you know, but it failed. But basically, to stretch it with your hands, all you're going to do is put it around your fist and kind of, you know, stretch it out, staying away from the middle like I said. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I'm only using around 75% of this pizza dough. This can make 2 medium pizzas, but it can make a extra large 16-inch pizza. You know, if you guys want to make that, I didn't feel like fooling around with a full 16-inch pizza on a pizza still today, so that's why I'm using, you know, 75% of the dough. So all I'm doing is taking the sauce and just kind of spreading it on the pizza dough and trying to keep it away from the you know, the crust that I made. And once we do that, we're going to add some whole fat mozzarella cheese. Now this is where you can add in some Parmesan and Asiago cheese if you guys want to. You can kind of mix and match. I was really already out of all that stuff before I started, and I just was too lazy to go get some stuff. So now I'm just adding in some partially cooked bacon. Now I did this before the video, but you guys know ahead of time that if you want your toppings to be ready, just go ahead and, you know, kind of bake you some bacon beforehand. You don't want to fully bake it, you just want to bake it enough to where it's kind of like almost done, because it's going to go in a 550-degree oven and you don't want it to burn. So I'm adding in some big cup pepperonis, and I'm kind of stretching it out a little bit more. Now this was about, I want to say 13 inches give or take. So, you know, like I said, I didn't use the full amount of dough. I kind of reserved some in my bowl. So now I'm just taking it and shaking it to make sure that it is not sticking to the pizza peel. And I'm going to slide this onto my pizza steel and bake this on 550 degrees for about 8 to 10 minutes. Now during my bake, my actual pizza turner kind of got, you know, messed up. Some screws actually fell out, so I wasn't able to turn the pizza like I wanted to. So that's why you can kind of see like the light spots in the pizza dough. But overall, I'm completely happy with this pizza right here. You know, the cheese browned up really good, the pepperoni has cupped up, the bacon is fully done, the crust looks phenomenal. The only thing that's left to do is add a little bit of butter to the crust and kind of split it up and eat it. Now flavor wise, this was super delicious. Now, I couldn't ask for a better pizza for only 45 minutes of work. You can see me adding in a little bit of butter with my spatula because I do not have a brush. But overall, this pizza was super easy for me to make, and it'll be super easy for you guys to make. Hope you guys try out this recipe. Definitely give it a try. Like and subscribe if you're new to my channel. I have some more videos coming soon. Make this pizza and let me know what you guys think. Peace out.